For me personally, acting is one of the most crucial aspects of storytelling. I've always admired the ability of a talented screen actor to allow us, as the viewer, to empathize with their characters. Personally, I've always been too self-conscious to act for an audience, but I can scratch the same itch in my drawings where my awkwardness doesn't come into play as much. There are two primary ways that we understand and empathize with another person's emotions. First is body language. We can tell so much about a person just from the way they walk, or the slump of their shoulders, or the tilt of their head. Have you ever noticed that even from a very long distance you can still discern the identity of a close friend or family member simply from the way they walk? We are hardwired to pay very close attention to body language, and this is why it's so important in conveying who a character is and what they're feeling. We should always consider the character's emotions when approaching how we draw their posture, but this becomes even more important when the camera is placed further away. If we can see their full body, we probably can't discern their facial expression as clearly, making body language the primary tool we have in conveying what they are thinking or feeling in that moment. Usually, when most people think about acting, they think about facial expressions, and with good reason. It's the easiest way to read people and get an idea of the underlying emotion behind the words they're speaking. You may have heard the saying, the eyes are the window to the soul, and that axiom holds true here. The eyes tell us so much. If you want to become proficient at acting through your characters, it is absolutely imperative that you become a master of drawing eyes. Have you ever noticed when someone has a fake smile? Just look at a kid whose mom is forcing them to smile for a photo, and you'll see exactly what I mean. The main characteristic of the forced or disingenuous smile is that the fake smiler only smiles with their mouth, whereas the real smiler smiles with both their mouth and their eyes. With a genuine smile, the bottom eyelid will become more of a horizontal line, or in a more exaggerated drawing, a slightly upwards curve like an upside-down U. I've noticed that in order to convey a specific emotion, it's best to start with a very simplified example of the desired facial expression, and then to build the necessary details on top. The initial drawing can be little more than a smiley face. If you nail the expression in this basic drawing, you should be able to keep the essence of it in the finished one. There are many other less obvious acting cues that we can employ in the pursuit of conveying an emotion. A few examples of these are the angle that the head is tilted, eye contact, or even nervous tics like biting the lip, tapping a finger, or shuffling feet side to side. All these small things tell a story about our characters and endear them to our audience. When attempting to convey emotions clearly, it works best if we place our camera almost directly towards the subject. If we're at a 3/4 degree angle, we feel less connected to what is happening, and therefore less engaged with the story. There are exceptions to this, of course. For example, if the speaker is supposed to be talking to another character and purposefully looking away from them. As a general rule, though, we want it pointed almost straight on at a very slight angle. You'll notice it's much easier for subtle or complex emotions to be conveyed from this angle, due to the fact that there is no perspective distortion on the face. There are certain poses and expressions that are very commonly used, particularly in comics, that are a little too cliché and cartoony for animation. I come from a comic background, so many of these bad habits haunted me early in my animation career. I used to do the "I don't know" pose fairly often, but when one of my first directors pointed it out, I realized how silly it looked. In comics, because of the limited number of drawings at one's disposal, the accepted methodology is to pick a drawing that distills the desired emotion down to a singular and exaggerated indication of that idea. Sometimes this works, but usually it feels very contrived, particularly if the drawing style is more realistic. People don't usually stand triumphantly with their fists on their hips when they accomplish a task, nor do they scratch their heads when deeply considering the matter at hand. Those things generally only work if the desired effect is comedic, so unless that is your intention, I'd steer clear of these. Last but not least, my advice on acting is to imagine yourself in the situation in which your character has been placed. Try to make yourself actually feel the emotions they would be feeling. Try to remember a moment in your own life where you felt similarly, and then draw. In the end, while there are many technical aspects to it that can and should be employed, acting should be emotional and not academic.